Welcome to the JB Media Institute Digital Drop-In. Today our topic is going to be how to market your local business without wasting time and money. And I'm Sarah Benoit, I'm the lead instructor of the Institute, and I'm here with Justin.
Hey Sarah, hey everybody.
So today we really are going to drill down into some simple strategies that Justin and I feel are really strong when it comes to local marketing. And not just that they actually work and have some power, but also that I think they're doable by a lot of people. So I want to just start by saying there's a lot of different what we call local SEO strategies and even now local social media strategies that you can investigate. But in this hour today, we're really going to talk about the things that are accessible to a large number of different types of businesses, different industries that have kind of that local focus. We are primarily, I think, today going to talk about companies and organizations that have physical locations that they are promoting. But I want to encourage any of you, if you consider yourself a local business, but let's say you work from home or you have you're in co-working, something of that nature where you don't have kind of your own standalone brick and mortar. Feel free to ask questions as we go along if there's anything that you need clarification on. There are still a lot of tools that you can use even if you don't have a physical location, but there are some that you wouldn't be able to use without that physical address that you're willing to put out to the public. But again, feel free to chat in anything as we go along, and we will address those as quickly as we can. So I'm going to pass the mic and the reins over to Justin so he can start us off today with some local tactics that he feels are really effective and especially are related to advertising strategy.
Thanks, Sarah. I appreciate it. So I'm going to go ahead and get started.
Let me make sure everybody can see this real quick. And Jenna, I saw that question. The screen should be up. You should see market your local business without wasting time and money. 3 tactics that work. Are you not seeing that? Let's see. Okay, 1 second. Somehow it paused itself, so give me 1 minute there. All right. All right, great. Thank you guys so much. I'm so sorry. Somehow it joined me paused itself for a second there, so we should be good to go.
All right. Well, thanks, Sarah. Thanks for getting that worked out. Appreciate the technical support, and Jenna for letting us know something wasn't working right. So I'm gonna I can manage that. Thanks, Sarah. Let some extra people join the class. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I have 3 different sections of this presentation I'm going to talk about today that cover different tactics for local marketing. The first section is about Facebook advertising, and primarily what we're touching on today is the different targeting options and how they address local versus non-local people and who you're reaching with your advertisements. Then we'll talk a little bit about Google AdWords targeting options and some examples of businesses I've worked with that have had local targeted strategies. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about partnership strategies for events and attractions. And these are based on the work we've done over the years here in the area and elsewhere to help people with their local businesses. So Facebook advertising, you have a lot of control over the geography with which you're targeting your Facebook ads. But there's actually a drop-down menu when you're choosing the location you want to target, and it can be a little bit confusing to understand what the options mean. So that's mostly what I'm going to talk about. So you can target people who are currently visiting, people who are currently near you, and I'm going to talk about how to make sense of those options in this presentation. So when you're creating an audience in Facebook, you can choose an entire state. You can choose, in the entire country even. But for most local businesses, it's going to make sense to reach a distinct geographic area and you can choose cities, which will do the kind of the metro area for the city. You can actually go down all the way to the zip code level. You can even you can drop a pin directly onto the map, and then you can choose a radius. So you can combine them, and if you have multiple zip codes listed, multiple pins, then the audience you're trying to target is additive. In other words, it is anyone who lives in any of the blue areas, and you can also exclude areas if you want to block them out. So you could, in theory, do all of Buncombe County but exclude the city of Asheville if you only wanted to reach county residents, for instance, if you had a specific promotion that was only relevant to them. And this is just an example, but what I want to talk about today is this drop-down menu above the locations list, and depending on what you're promoting, you may want to only promote to locals, only promote to tourists, or some combination. You may want to only promote to people who are currently in the area, or anyone who lives here, whether or not they're actually currently there. So for instance, if I'm traveling to California, but I might still see an ad for an event that's happening in Asheville because Facebook knows I live in Asheville. On the other hand, I might also see an event for something happening in San Francisco while I'm there because Facebook knows I'm currently in San Francisco. Facebook determines this by the where your phone was last connected to the cell tower network, and also where your laptop computer was connected to the internet when you last accessed Facebook. So in other words, if I'm at an Airbnb in San Francisco, Facebook knows I'm there based on my cell phone location and based on using the Wi-Fi there and connecting to the internet through that local network. So to explain a little bit further, when you are creating a targeting audience in Facebook, you can scroll around here, and you have this drop-down menu above the location field, and you have these 4 options. You have everyone in this location, people who live in this location, people who recently were in this location, and people traveling in this location. People traveling in this location is if you only want to target tourists. So what this does is it's people whose most recent login location was within your selected area, but whose home is more than 125 miles away. So if their home location is Hendersonville, they wouldn't be considered tourists, but if their home location is Charleston, South Carolina, then they would. And so when I did this test to create this presentation, when I checked people traveling in this location for Asheville, there were only 15,000 people who I could target who were currently traveling. Now, for a lot of promotions, you want to reach a combination of people who are living locally, who are potentially still in town, and those who are traveling. That's a combination. And that is people who are recently in this location. And that can be confusing because it might feel like the word recently is past tense, meaning you might interpret that as like recent tourists. But actually, it's not what it is. It's actually people whose most recent location was the area. So that would be any local, any day tripper, or any tourists would be in the people recently in this location. So I'm going to go on. I think I have a few other slides to explain the other ones as well. So that I just was kind of going over this one. Basically, at any given time, this number will fluctuate, but when I checked this out before, with a 25-mile radius around Asheville, which would cover a few of the surrounding towns, the current, the number when I did this a couple months ago, there were 300,000 Facebook users who were recently in Asheville. This is locals plus tourists. So basically, everyone in this location is another option, and that would be, I think that includes everyone who lives there, whether or not they currently live there, tourists. It's just like the most broad. And so that's the default. Everyone in this location is the default. Then if you want to get more refined, like only marketing to tourists, or only people who are actually locals, if you have something that's very like, if you're marketing a gym or something like that, you might not want to reach to the tourists and stuff of that nature. So it depends on your business model and what percentage of your customers are local versus tourists. So what I've been talking about so far is all stuff that's within the Facebook audience builder. This is the creating a saved audience inside of the Facebook Ads Manager. But you can forego this if you want to keep it simple, and directly from your page, you can hit the promote button. And if your business has an address, which most businesses do, and as Sarah said, this talk is mostly relevant for local businesses, you can choose this promote your business locally option. And then what it does is it knows your location based on what you've entered as a Facebook business page, and it targets, you can change the radius, you can choose how far out you want to go. And basically what it does is it goes with the broadest type of targeting. It does locals, temporary, people who are temporary checked in that location, tourists. It's sort of like everyone it possibly can target based on your geographic area. So this is a sort of a shortcut. It creates a slightly less options, in other words, in terms of like you can't choose those four different the drop downs. It just gives you a number and you can choose whether or not you want to promote something. This is definitely a viable option. We've used this to market various art galleries, resorts, things of that nature. So it definitely, if you want to keep it simple, you can try this option. If you want to go a little more advanced, you can use the examples I showed before. So with Google AdWords, when you're a local business, you probably want to think about your AdWords in a very distinct way. You want to think about what people might be searching for when they are already in your area, whether that's a local or tourist. And usually when people are already local, they're more likely, especially as we evolve into more voice search, they're more likely to just search for what they're looking for, or ask their phone or Siri or whatever to find them something near them. So if someone's looking for pizza restaurants, if I search for pizza restaurants on my phone, I already know that the phone's going to return local businesses. The AdWords, I would assume, would also return local businesses as well. That's only if those advertisers have set their ads up correctly. So we're assuming a lot when we kind of trust the system. But what I want to talk about is ways to get that right with your advertising. Additionally, when you are a local business, you may be wanting to target tourists who are planning their vacation. And when someone's planning a vacation, they know where they're going, and they know that if they search without the name of where they're going, they're only going to get local results. So they always append a geographic word to their query. Sometimes local people do. I might search Asheville pizza restaurants, even though I'm already here. But if I'm going to be going to Sedona, Arizona in 2 weeks, I'm absolutely going to search Sedona, Arizona, healthy restaurants, Sedona, Arizona, things to do, attractions, whatever I'm looking for to try to plan my trip. So if someone was in Sedona and they wanted to make sure that I was seen on those ads, they'd want to set their campaigns in a certain way. So if you want to target both, you need two different campaigns. You need one campaign that is geo-targeted just for locals. So in other words, it only shows up for people who are in your targeted area right around your business, within that maybe 5 miles or maybe 20, depending on what you're selling. But then you also want a campaign that targets everything else except for the local area, because you don't really necessarily want to compete with yourself. So you might want to create a list of counties or a list of zip codes or whatever you want to target, create one campaign that uses keywords that don't all include the geographic query. You can do phrase match. So like, for instance, if you're a pizza restaurant, you might do pizza restaurants, lunch restaurants, places to eat, things like that, where you don't put the geolocation on it, but you leave it in phrase match with quotes around it, so that if someone does search in that area and they do append a geolocation onto it, you might still show up. Then you would do a second campaign, would be more of a national target, or if you want to choose like certain states, then you would exclude those counties that you wanted to target. So we used to do the marketing for the Restaurant Association in Asheville, and when I did that marketing campaign, I basically did this, where I had one campaign set up for just the Asheville area, and it was all different genres of food and various generic searches for food that would drive people to the right page on their website. But then we had another campaign that was the entire country, and it excluded the local area. So if someone's in the local area, they didn't get that second campaign. But if someone was in California and they were searching for Asheville restaurants or Asheville Asian food or something like that, then the Air website would appear in the Google AdWords results for them, and they would take them straight to the Air website rather than finding another directory or another site. And that would mean that those Air restaurants, the member restaurants of the Restaurant Association of Asheville, would have a better shot at it being what the person chose to eat at when they came to town. So in order to do that, you create one campaign that is very geo-targeted to your area. And I just did an example here where I just targeted counties in Western North Carolina. You can see really clearly that I've carved out these counties in this western part of the state. I've left out, I think, my home county here, Polk County, which is that missing spot there, right north of Greenville and Spartanburg. And then if I was to do I could create a second campaign that was like targeting entire states or in the entire country, but then I could exclude these counties if I wanted. They would show up in red instead of blue on the map, and that would basically indicate that the ad will run everywhere that's blue, but not where it's red. You can do North Carolina and exclude a county, and it'll kind of a blue area of the entire state and then a red pin just on the county you don't want to target. So that's how you would set up the targeting part of AdWords in order to create this type of approach that I'm suggesting. Now I want to talk a little bit about partnerships. This is a little bit more broad. It spans a few different advertising platforms, and not even all these cases. Not all these examples are advertising related, but I wanted to share 3 local business strategies that we've used and we've helped people with, or that we've experienced and seen at work before I turn it over to Sarah. So one is contests and sweepstakes. One is nonprofit fundraiser campaigns. One is hosting Instagram or influencer meetup. So with contests and sweepstakes, these are really great for attractions, hospitality, organizations, and events. So we've got a lot of experience doing this for conferences. One of our conference clients isn't really local, but we've had huge success, so I wanted to at least point it out. But we've also done it for, in this case, we've done it for a tourism association, Visit Cherokee, North Carolina, and I'll show you an example of that in a minute. And for Visit Cherokee, we put together a vacation experience, mostly from donated items from their partner organizations. And then we did a big online promotion campaign asking those partners to promote it, doing our own Facebook and Twitter posts, doing some boosted posts. And we generated over 15,000 entries via email address and phone number, which then built their massive addition to their email list. For the Holistic Holiday at Sea vegan cruise, we've done this 3 years in a row, and it's grown every year. The first year it was 9,000 people. The second year it was 13 or 14. And the last year it was 22,000. And we promote that through social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, email, through our own email list. And then we use these partners. We use influencers, which I'm going to talk about later a little bit in a few minutes. We use all these things, all these partners to promote the sweepstakes. So for the cruise sweepstakes, some of the partners contribute signed merchandise or consultations during the cruise to the promotion, to the package, and then they also do Facebook posts. Now, what makes it really fly is we carve out a small amount of our advertising budget to transfer via PayPal to our partners so that their posts aren't just organic, they're actually boosted posts. So we send 4 or 5 different partners, anywhere between $75 and $250 each, depending on how important I think they are for the campaign. And they do 1 or 2 boosted posts, and that really increases the number of people who see it, and it always does really well. We get lots of email addresses. So that is a partner strategy that I think can work locally too. I haven't seen it, be leveraged as often locally, but if you're looking to do an ad campaign with like the local newspaper, you might want to ask if there's an option for adding in promoted posts that you can pay for on their Facebook page. If you're working with a local blogger, ask if you can do a paid promotion to their page, and just make it part of a negotiation where you're working on something with them. You obviously have to offer them something for that to make sense. In the case of the cruise, we're offering these guests a free access to the event, so that's a big ticket item. With the Visit Cherokee contest, which I'll show you now, this is just one of the Facebook posts. You can see they were giving away a couple nights at the casino. We're giving away tickets to the theater, the museum, and the village. We're giving away golf at the golf course, some other things as well. And we're asking people to tag their friend to enter. And this is something we've been talking about lately. Facebook is starting to discourage this tag a friend kind of forced engagement strategy. When you put a boosted post behind it, you put a couple $100 behind it, you can kind of overcome that. And this worked really well, and this was extremely successful. We're monitoring that closely and to see if the new algorithm is going to start further suppressing these types of posts that say, tag a friend to share the experience, and that this really helps get more entries. But we also want to be careful because organically Facebook is claiming they're going to start limiting the reach of posts that really kind of call for that type of interaction or ask for it directly. So this is just an example of, this is a very local sweepstakes, and we represented the Visit Cherokee on this one, but we're doing another one of these this year for just an inn out in Bryson City, and the inn is going to be the centerpiece. They're going to offer a couple nights, and they're trying to get local attractions like the whitewater rafting and others to contribute to the package so that it can be a bigger package. But if they can't get contributions, they're just going to buy gift certificates to build it up. So that's just another example, but hopefully they'll be able to do that through partnerships and not have to pay for it. So next one is nonprofit fundraisers through likes campaigns. The way this works is you choose a nonprofit that's well respected in your community.
Just so you know, there's a question down there if you want to get to it.
So that's a good question, Dave. The Cherokee campaign, they already had pretty large following on Facebook. At the time we launched the campaign, they had built up about 200,000 likes, and we had helped them get there from about 13,000 when we started. When they started, we were targeting people that were interested in a bunch of different Native American related Facebook pages, also the Smoky Mountains and the Blue Ridge Mountains, and nearby destinations such as Maggie Valley over to Gatlinburg. So we were just basically letting those people who already had an affinity for the region, affinity for Native American organizations or history, an affinity, we were getting them to like the page. So during the promotion, we mostly promoted it to people who already liked the page, but we also reached out to other people who had the similar affinity to those same target audiences we've been targeting for years. And then we asked the partners like the casino, the museum, to share it with their fans as well. And in the case of the casino, we also got them to do some boosted posts to their audience. The casino had several 100,000 at the time. So it was basically just reaching people who already knew about the area mostly, because we just wanted to get, the main goal in that case was getting email addresses, moving people from just fans of the page to having one additional, more tangible way to connect with them. In other cases where it's a brand new company, we're just using, maybe we know about their brand, the targeting audiences, and using, just basically those demographics that we're trying to target to, that's who we're trying to reach with those Facebook boosts. Now, moving on, I'm kind of running out of time here. I make sure Sarah gets enough time. I have two more strategies to talk about. So this is an interesting one. It used to be more popular than it has been lately. I think it could still work. I haven't seen it done in a year or two, I think, locally. But you choose a nonprofit that's well respected in the community and has a large loyal following that aligns with your target audience. Then you offer to donate 25 cents per like for every new like you get for a month to this nonprofit. And then you provide some materials for them to share with their audience on social media and email. And then you can also do your own promotions and ask your fans and people who already like your page to let people know about it. So basically, you're incentivizing the growth of your own page. And if you know anything about Facebook advertising, you're going to spend more than 25 cents and 90% of the time to buy a new like. So this is basically, rather than buying a new like from Facebook, you're buying a new like from a certain nonprofit, and hopefully, you're getting a little bit of goodwill from their existing audience and the community at large, because you are making a monetary gift in exchange for awareness. Now, you have to be a little bit careful because this can seem a little bit self-promotional. So just talk to the nonprofit here if they think this would work for them, and make sure you get them to commit to doing a certain number of posts. And if you have a little bit of budget, you could pay them to do a boosted post to their fans as well, which would increase the significantly increase the reach of those posts and how it performs. So that's an interesting strategy. I haven't seen it done in a little while. It used to be fairly common back in 2009, 10, 11, that time range, and more recently than that as well. So it's something I wanted to bring back up as a way to work with nonprofits to get your page built up. And then the last thing is kind of a local version of influencer marketing, and that is to kind of host local bloggers or local influencers who have large Instagram followings to a social event. And in some communities, they already have created a meetup group, and you just can offer to host them and maybe buy some hors d'oeuvres and maybe create a little educational presentation or something to incentivize them to come. We recently executed this with great success for a local art gallery in the River Arts District. Actually, it was an entire building that hosted multiple galleries, multiple studios. They were changing ownership, renovating, and they wanted fresh imagery. They wanted some buzz. So they hosted an Insta-Meet, the actual Instagram meetup group, and had a pretty good turnout, and it turned out to be a really great promotion for them. So those are just a few ideas I have for local partnership strategies and working with social media influencers to build out new user-generated content and organic buzz. Last example of this would be, it's a little bit different, but the holistic cruise, which I referenced earlier, just got back from that about 2 weeks ago, and this year we had about 7 or 8 influencers, including some really large Instagram influencers, with people with over 100,000 followers on Instagram on board, with global followings, and we hosted a hashtag contest while on board this 10-day cruise, and we got over 1,500, close to 2,000 images and stories shared on Instagram using the hashtag. Some really amazing photography, and I would estimate over 200,000 total hearts and comments on those various posts. I know that because I know a lot of them had over 100 interactions, and a few of them had over 10,000 interactions. So that just kind of averages probably in the 100 to 200 range. So that is a great example. Obviously it's a national event, it's an international event, but on the local scale you can do something similar. Well, I don't. The question, I don't know if Sarah, if you have any examples of successful hashtag contests. The one I was describing was the hashtag vegan cruise contest. I say it was successful this year. We did it. This is the second year in a row. The first year we had about 300. I think 300 people use it. 300 total images shared. This year we had almost 2,000. It was even successful the first year. We just had more people involved, a younger audience, bigger influencers participating. So yeah, that is one example. What we're going to do is we're going to randomly choose a winner, and they're going to get a discount to come. When they come on the cruise next year, they're going to get a really good deal. And yeah, we saw through that, we saw huge growth in our own Instagram following. It's up to close to 6,000 now. It was probably only 3,000 a month ago. We've seen great interaction on our early posts about the next year's event coming up. They just went out this week on our Instagram. More interaction on Instagram with 6,000 followers than we were seeing on Facebook, which has 40,000. So we're seeing really good results from that. But I want to make sure Sarah has enough time, so I'm going to wrap it up. Unless you have any really quick questions.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, I haven't done very many hashtag contests. Most of the projects that I'm working on are focused mostly on just getting the hashtag to do really well. So I don't really have any examples of that. But I will say that I think success is based on the size of your network. So if you have a larger network, you just want to think about how your goals for the success of a contest would be much higher. You could have a smaller network and get a smaller response, but it's kind of looking at the percentages, right? So if you still get high percentages, then that would be successful. Even if it didn't, attract thousands of people, it maybe attracted just a couple hundred. But if you have a smaller network, that couple hundred might be a pretty decent percentage of your total network that you got involved. And I think with Justin's point, you do want to make sure that with any contest, you're really looking at, kind of the engagement rates, as well as how many new followers did you attract through that contest. And you can set goals beforehand, again, based on the size of your network and the types of promotions you're doing for the contest. But yeah, there's so many different ways that you could define success in that world.